Left center field, Hendon waits for it. He's got it. William Carey is back to the NAIA World Series. They win it 11-4. William Carey finishes the regular season 15-3, ending it here at home 78-70. The Crusaders are conference champions.
Welcome back to Behind the Shield, your inside look into William Carey Athletics. I'm your host, Ben Smith. This week we're joined by the head men's and women's swim coach, Robert Gonzalez. Coach, glad to have you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Second season here at William Carey coaching swim. You guys opened a couple weeks ago at Delta State, so the season's off and running. After being here for a solid year now, how did the expectations, or how did the experience in the last year live up to your expectations for the team?
I think overall, I think it kind of exceeded our expectations just based on, starting a program from absolute scratch. A lot of plans changed. We were going to be down in Biloxi. We ended up moving things up here. Starting a team with no swimmers, trying to get the ball rolling. Those first couple of recruits were really super important to us to kind of, calibrate, where we were as a program and where we kind of stacked up. I thought we hit some home runs on being able to pull in some really great swimmers worldwide. And just kind of, just kept, snowballing itself into what it is right now. And I look forward to seeing how year two progresses and just keep getting better every single year moving forward.
All right. Now, you talking about the challenge of starting a new program.
Yeah.
And the challenge of scheduling pool times.
Yeah.
So we've had to use several different pools because we don't have an on-campus facility here.
Yeah.
3 or 4 practices a day. How do you manage juggling that schedule?
Our goal is simply to make it work to where the swimmers are getting what they need. We do our best to split our groups to make sure that we don't have too many bodies in the pool at one time. For people who understand going to a YMCA pool, you have very limited space, and you got 20, 24 big bodies. These aren't little kids just hopping in the pool. These are 24, 200-pound dudes who are swimming up and down, creating a lot of wave action, and that gets really chaotic. So we do our best to make sure that we have, smaller groups to be able to specialize, our sprint group with the sprinters, our distance guys with the distance guys. We do a couple of full team practices a week just to kind of maintain, continuity, having the whole team atmosphere in there. But we want to meet their specific needs because we don't want, a guy who's specializing for a 50 freestyle getting the same work as a guy doing the 400 IM. It's that'd be the same thing as having the kicker and the quarterback in the same huddle. It's never going to happen. So I think we've done a good job managing it. It's been a lot to kind of, put it all together and see it play out with, meal schedules and, class schedules, pool schedule, weight training sessions. It's tough for them sometimes.
There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts. And, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that these guys, waking up at 4:15 in the morning to go to the pool, going straight to the cafeteria for breakfast, then going to class, trying to squeeze in a nap and then get ready for weights or evening training. It's a lot for them. So.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to ask you what time the day started for these kids, but you talk about waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I think that's the part of being an athlete that the average person doesn't see. They see the competition. As a fan, you see the competition and what goes on there, but you don't see all those hours, behind the curtain there, 4 o'clock in the morning getting up and doing it. So it takes a lot of dedication, obviously. Now, you mentioned distance swimmers or sprint swimmers.
Yeah.
Kind of take us through what typical training would be for each of those. We'll start with distance and then go to the sprint.
I would say, over the course of a week, those guys are in mid-season training form, pumping out about 60,000 meters a week of volume. Not every single day is going to be exactly the same. There is some diversity, within their training structure, different stroke, different distances, different threshold levels that we're working. You can't just work the same energy system every single day. Sprint group is going to be a much lower volume, probably about 50-60% of that in total, with just a much higher intensity. They're using all the fancy equipment and the toys and the pulleys and all the resistance training, so they get a little bit more action when it comes to the diversity of their practices. Much less volume though, but they're having to really kill their reps at a higher level to kind of meet the needs of what they're trying to focus on.
Right. Now, I know with other sports, you kind of have scouting reports, or things about the other teams, strengths and weaknesses. Does any of that go on in swimming? Like, do you look at another team and say, okay, they're really good in this area, so we have to do X?
I would say for the most part, no. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to recruit these, men and women to be specializing in their 2 or 3 different events, and for the most part, they're going to do those 2 or 3 different events almost every single week. Some of them have a little bit more flexibility in what they're able to do, and so we'll try to, spread it, spread it out a little bit more. That way, it's not, too monotonous for them, having to compete the same 2 or 3 races every single time. But for the most part, they kind of know what they are going into the season. We've had some success stories, though. We had one guy who came in last year out of Tuscaloosa, Josiah, and he came in, I'm only a sprinter, I'm only a sprinter, I'm only a sprinter. And then his 500 freestyle, which to me is a mid-distance event, he goes from 5:06 to 4:32, knocks off 34 seconds in a year, and he's first team all-conference, as a freshman in a race that he didn't even think was going to be there. So for the most part, they kind of know what they are, but we also don't close the door on exploring every single option to make sure that we're putting them in what's the most conducive for them, and also as part of our team makeup of trying to be competitive in every single event.
Now, when you're in competition, can you see where the other swimmers are during the race? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, explain that, because I would think there's just so much chaos in the pool, so much going on, and I don't know how it works for everybody. I know if
Yeah.
I'm swimming and my head's back and forth, I'm probably not seeing a whole lot of what's going on.
Yeah, I would say in freestyle, because you're breathing laterally, for the most part, you are going to be able to see the competition across. Hopefully, you don't see them on that side of you, but on the back side of you. If you're doing a good job. Sprint races, not as much, because they're not going to be breathing as much. A good 50 freestyle is not going to take a breath the whole race. Pretty much every single race besides that on the freestyle, they're going to be able to kind of see that. Breast and butterfly, you're probably going to have to wait until a turn to be able to maybe catch a glimpse of where they are. And in backstroke, you're just staring at the ceiling. So aside from the turn itself, they're not able to see the competition nearly as much. So that's where practice, making sure that they're doing everything in practice to where they know what they're doing in the meet without needing somebody else. They shouldn't require an outside stimulus to be able to do what they're capable of being able to do.
Right. So that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, if you're, let's say the backstroke you're doing that, you're staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
How do I know if I need to speed up, slow down, I'm good, or do I have an internal clock that I'm going off of, something like that?
If they don't have the internal clock built into them, then they're not going to be at a high level anyway.
Which goes back to all their hours in the pool.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of our favorite pieces of equipment is our tempo trainer. It's basically just a metronome where they got to maintain their stroke rate, and that thing is just on cruise control. Right. It's a fast cruise control. I mean, it's not slow or anything, but they're trained to make sure they're pumping this many number of strokes in this amount of time. They know how many kicks they're taking off every single wall.
Do they count strokes during the race?
They better be counting strokes. I remember in the 2008 Olympics, Michael Phelps' goggles comes off in the 200-meter butterfly, and he's swimming blind the whole time. He just counted his strokes across the pool.
Wow.
And won the gold medal. Yeah. I'm not comparing that as the normal swimmer on planet Earth, but I mean, you got to be able to know what you're doing, because or else, you start, going too far underwater, too long underwater. That's you're not getting the oxygen that you're needing to be able to finish the race. If you're not on your breathing pattern, if you're not on your cycle rate, all those little things from the outside perspective, internally for a swimmer can really disorient you inside the race. Otherwise,
all right. Going back to the inaugural season.
Yeah.
We had a national champion in the first ever season of having the sport here at William Carey.
Yeah.
Super excited. I know the entire university was incredibly proud of that.
Yeah.
How does that help recruiting going forward to be able to go around and say, hey, in our first year having a team, we had a national champion? That's a pretty good pitch.
Yeah. He did a really great job, and we were really proud of that. When it comes to the recruiting side, what you take out of that from a coach's standpoint is that it also helps us just have that name brand recognition on the outside.
Right.
People seeking us out. Obviously in year one, I would even call it year zero. I was hired, and we had basically a year zero of just building the team and the infrastructure personnel wise, and it was always me announcing to people, like even inside Mississippi, didn't know that we had a swim team at that point in time. We had to get our name out there. So having that just kind of propels us. It's like a launching pad almost of just, they see that we're developing swimmers, and so they start looking at us. They as in, just the entire world of swimming, reaching out to us saying, okay, where do I need to be able to go to William Carey versus the other way around? So it's made that part a lot easier on the recruiting side, because we can be a little bit pickier, because I kind of say every single time we bring somebody in, we kind of recalibrate what it takes to be a William Carey swimmer. And I think every single time we have success, it just kind of elevates the bar as far as what you're going to have to be able to do to bring it in and be a crusader moving forward.
And that kind of almost answers my next question, which would be for kids that are in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, that want to come to William Carey and be a swimmer. Kind of what message would you send to them?
I mean, our goal is to dominate the Gulf Coast. I mean, we want to have this be our fertile ground. That's why I really look forward to being down in Biloxi and having that pool, because everyone on the coast goes down there for the biggest meets of the season. So they're familiar with that facility in that area. When it comes to swimmers, they got to make sure they're communicating with their parents, with their club coaches, with their high school coaches, saying, hey, what does it take for me to go to that next level if I want to continue swimming and get an education beyond just the high school level, and have all those moving parts connect? Because we're not just looking for swimmers, we want to build human beings the right way. We want to make sure that we're also, providing the academics that they're looking for. There's a lot of fast swimmers out there that I don't recruit because it's just, they want to go a certain route in their education. They want to go a certain route in life. It may not be a fit for William Carey. We want to make sure that we're bringing people in that we're going to develop over 4 years, make better people, make better citizens, individuals, and have that team concept. Because the only way that our team is going to be at its best is if every individual is pulling their weight and being their best and making the people around them better.
That's a perfect answer.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us this week.
Yes, sir.
For you guys back at home, keep up with the William Carey men's and women's swim team. This weekend, they travel to Marietta, Georgia to take on Life University, and it's still not too late to join the Crusader Club. You can do that at caryathletics.com or on the app. It's a great way to connect with our athletic department and get some cool gear back in the process. And until next time, armor up.